What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the show. As always, thank you for tuning in. And you guys know how on this show, we're always talking about the elites, the establishment, the one percenters, the rich ruling class. Well, there is such a thing. And to me, it's not a problem, because if you say that it's a problem, then that means you have to object to capitalism. And I'm sorry, folks, but capitalism is probably one of the best systems that has ever been made. The problem with capitalism, and just like with everything else, there's always a problem. There's always ups and downs to everything, is that you create a class of people that are extremely wealthy, and these families are wealthy for so long, it's almost as if they get bored of running their own, essentially being masters of their own universe. So they want to control others. So they're like, listen, I built this huge franchise. I made this giant corporation. I'm a multi-billionaire. I've conquered the world. And now I want to control the world. This is when we go into problems, because these people feel like, since they were good in business or they were good in stocks or whatever the case is, now they want to enter the world of controlling what other people do and make a perfect world. This is who I call the elites. And the elites are now ruling our country. They're now running our country. It's not politicians, because the politicians, they need money. They need money so they can run for elections. They get their money from special interests and donors. So therefore, the special interests and donors are actually the people running our elections. This is a big problem, because now you have people like George Soros, who are essentially handpicking who he wants to be attorney generals or district attorneys or judges or this or that. And so this is where you start running into problems, because now these rich elite ruling class have figured out a way to control the population without actually the population knowing who's controlling it. And this is how they do it, through politics. So this is a real interesting article that came out, hat tip to Jack Montgomery over at the National Pulse. And I actually think the original writers of the story was the Boston Globe. And it's titled, "Elite 1% in U.S. hold radical anti-American values." So this is the problem that we have. Because these rich elite ruling class, the masters of their own universe, these people have come to the conclusion that in order to make a perfect world, this perfect utopia that they're looking for, they're going to have to first destroy America. They have to wipe it clean. I think for decades and maybe even a century, they've tried to use use America as a platform and build onto it. But now they've quickly realized that the whole system is broken. It's all junk, and we need to scrap it. And I don't know when this decision was made, but you can almost tell that it's been at least 30 years. Because we are well on our way to destroying this place, and so that these people can step in and implement their own ideas, their own, they'll essentially be in control of everything. They're in control of everything now, but the one thing they don't have control over is free will. They cannot control the people. And that is because we have a constitution that protects us. We have laws. We have religion. We have a constitution, and we have a set of rules in this country that protect us and protect our liberties and freedom. This is why you're constantly seeing the Constitution, the rule of law. It's been under attack for a long time, not just the last 8 years. Although I think this obsession, this bloodlust for Donald Trump has not just incentivized the ruling class elites to destroy the Constitution, to hit the reset button, but it's kind of given them an excuse to be evil. It's kind of given them they're kind of using Donald Trump as a scapegoat. It's like, oh, well, we have to destroy this place to get rid of Trump. Almost the same exact thing we're watching with the weaponization of the justice system. And we say it all the time on the show. It's like everything is worth it. The ends justify the means. You got to break a few eggs to make an omelet. This is the mindset that they're going with. And they're using Donald Trump as a scapegoat for it. They're using Donald Trump as the reason. And so what we have now is the richest ruling class elites, the richest people in the world, the elite ruling class, they are becoming more and more anti-American. And this doesn't bode well for patriotic, America-loving citizens. And so if these people want to change this place, they're going to have to come through us. And they can't do that, and they know that. So now they're trying other ways to get control. And one of those ways is George Soros. George Soros took a very, very unique path. I wouldn't say he's the first, but he's probably one of the pioneers of dismantling the system through plausible, deniable ways, through politics. Other ways is through culture, and so on and so forth. So a new poll released this week suggests that the growth of radical left-wing authoritarianism in America is being driven solely by the country's wealthiest citizens. So research by Scott Rasmussen has revealed a yawning gulf between regular Americans and the quote-unquote elite 1%. People living in densely populated urban centers with postgraduate degrees and a household income over $150,000. The polling found that relative to American at large, this group was much more Democrat, much more authoritarian, and much more willing to cheat to win elections. So only 21% of elites told the pollster that there is not enough individual freedom in America, while 47% said there is too much. This compares to 57% of voters overall who think there is not enough individual freedom and just 16% who think there is too much. So let's go over that again. So they polled the elites. Only 21% of elites told the pollster there is not enough individual freedom in America, while 47% said there is too much. And this compares to 57% of voters who think there is not enough individual freedom and just 16% who think there is too much. So this is where we're having a problem. This is called class separation. We do not have a racial divide in this country right now. We don't have any other divide except for a class divide. This is an issue I think both sides can come together on, and I think we should, Republican and Democrat, and realize that we do have a class divide in this country. I think we have a different means of the solution. We have different solutions to the problem, essentially. So Democrats are figuring out that they're essentially going to use the rich elites in order to get their way, because, you know, the radical Democrats, they want to see this country destroyed too. They don't like the Constitution because it stands in their way of creating this perfect system. And so they have essentially partnered with the rich elites, where conservatives and Republicans, we want to do it the old-fashioned way. You know, you want to change this place, you got to come through us. And, you know, we think there's going to be like this big civil war, guns and bombs and stuff like that. They're not doing it that way because they know they'll lose, right? There's a gun behind every blade of grass. So they're going a different route. They're going to do it through culture. They're going to do it through the churches. They're going to do it through politics, government. This is how these people figured out a way to ultimately control the people while destroying their fundamental values and principle system, which is our founding system, the Constitution, the rule of law, and so on and so forth. So 77% of elites said that they would like to impose restrictions and rationing on private citizens, access to gas, electricity, and even meat. In comparison, 63% of voters overall opposed such measures. Most elites also favored banning gas-powered vehicles, gas-burning stoves, sport utility vehicles, non-essential air travel, and private air conditioning to fight climate change. Rasmussen said his most terrifying finding, and he said this, Rasmussen said, in quotes, the most terrifying finding was the proportion of elites who admitted that they would, quote, rather cheat than lose an election, unquote. Support for cheating stands at just 7% among all voters, but at 35% among elites, and an astonishing 69% among a subset of elites Rasmussen designated as, quote, politically obsessed, discussing politics daily. This is terrifying. So the polling also found that Joe Biden has much stronger support among elites than the general population. Elites also have a much higher opinion of lawmakers, journalists, and professors, and more trust in government officials in general. Their priorities are very different from the average America's, with most voters listing border security and immigration among their top 2-3 issues. Not one elite respondent listed the border or immigration as a concern. I told you, these people have very different plans for us. And it's actually not surprising. I knew this was probably the case. We talk about it on the show all the time. I think it's vital for both sides to come together and combat this. And I'm talking about the sane, rational Democrats, not the radical leftists that are just using the elites to get their way, which are essentially bootlickers to the same people that they want to tax into oblivion. So I think the Democrats and I think the leftists and Democrats are more susceptible to these existential threats, like climate change. I said from the very beginning that climate change is real, all right? The climate's changing. Everybody knows it's changing. It's been changing for a very long time. I think we've had 4 ice ages since the birth of this planet, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. I don't see us controlling the climate is the problem. Like, even if you think it was man-made, you have to have a solution. What is the solution? And I'm telling you right now, it's the same exact people. This whole scenario of combating climate change has been hollowed out. It is rotten to its core, because now you have people using climate change as a reason to control the population of the citizenry. This is where I have a big problem. And this is where Democrats, they believe this stuff. They believe a whole town could be ran on windmills and solar panels. And so they're really, like I always say on the show, Americans are not dumb. They could be gullible and they could be panicky at times, but they're not dumb. And the problem is we have a vast portion of our population that have essentially surrendered, or they're willing to surrender everything in the name of climate change, but they don't realize who they're surrendering to, right? They're surrendering everything to the rich elite ruling class is what they're doing. These rich elite ruling class are using politicians and politics to get to their ultimate goal. And so everything is about money. Money controls everything. These people that run these multi-billion-dollar companies, these corporations, yeah, they're smart in their own field, and some are probably geniuses. But the thing is like, they really don't know anything. You know what I mean? They don't know what struggle is. A lot of them, they struggle. Everybody has their own problems. The problem I think we have is I think Democrats just fell for this stuff, man. They fell for it hard, and now we're paying the price. But this poll from Rasmussen, this worries me, but it really just confirms what I already knew, is that the rich ruling class elites are using their money and their power and influence in order to get their desirable outcome. Their desirable outcome is to be able to control everything, to not just be masters of their own universe, but to be masters of ours as well. And they're achieving their goal, they're achieving their desired outcome by swaying politicians. How do they do that? By donations, super PACs, money, right? Once you get a politician elected, essentially buying a politician, they have to return the favor. This is where we're at now. This is why our system has been so broken, is because of the rich ruling class elites. And we've put in measures to try and combat it. But really, this all comes down to virtue. This all comes down to integrity and pride. Like, we're in a real moral dilemma here. It's not just something one man can fix. It's not something Donald Trump's going to be able to get in and fix. It is the moral degradation of our society. You'll find that these rich ruling class, I'm sure if you go into the poll even more, most of them are either atheists or they're secularists, which means they don't believe in God. They don't believe in a religion. Nothing is more powerful than them. Nothing controls them. They control everything, and they are more powerful than everybody. So this is the problem that we're having. Unfortunately, this moral collapse is spreading across our country and our society like a cancer. And so it's not something that one man can fix or, one president can fix. It's going to take the change of our society. And sometimes those changes are forced. A lot of those changes, those moral changes, are forced through war. And I think, and I've been saying this since the beginning of the show too, I think we're in the beginning days of World War III. I think this is the fourth turning. I think these types of events happen, on a cycle basis. So it's a cycle every 90 years, 100 years, whatever the case is. But I think it's events like this that have to take place in order for people to regain their moral integrity. And we are, unfortunately, in our time here on this planet, it falls on our laps. But the one thing that we have today that we didn't have then was content, was alternative media outlets. It doesn't have to be this way. Like, if people can just see and understand who the enemy is, it's not Republicans versus Democrats. And I've said that for a while, that this election has nothing to do with Democrats versus Republicans. This is the American people. This is the people versus the machine. We are up against this rich ruling class machine, and these people are very smart, and they use all the strategies in their toolkit, whether, like I said, money, politicians, culture, and the schools, the education system. And so it's really going to be up to us, the people, to combat this, to fight against this, to resist falling for these people's tricks. Because, I mean, I'm not saying that there's, the Illuminati out there and all this stuff, like the secret, what do they call that? The Freemasons, like that group actually exists. Like, I guarantee there's groups. Obviously, you had Epstein Island. So there's these rich elite groups where these people, the World Economic Forum, for example, in Switzerland, Davos. So it's, I'm not saying that there's not these groups. I just don't think it's this, I think that's where the disconnect is. Once you start talking about the Illuminati and all that stuff, this is where you start to lose a lot of people. But I do think there is an elite ruling class that is on the same page, and they are combining forces, and they're communicating, and they're essentially, they have a goal. Their goals are aligning, and now it's time for change. It's crunch time. And they're using Donald Trump as a predicate to get there. So I think it's almost kind of like how the media, I feel like the media always had a bias for forever. I think the media always wanted to come out and be leftist Democrats. I think they always wanted to support Democrats, but they never could bring themselves to admit it to the public until Donald Trump came. And then it's almost like they were given the excuse to pull off their mask and show everybody who they were. And so this is the problem with an administrative state media. These people, these rich ruling class elites, are also using the media, but they don't own us. They don't own regular Americans that have a podcast and a microphone. So I think this is the way for regular Americans to combat these rich ruling class elites from completely destroying our country. Because I don't know about you, but I don't want to eat bugs, okay? I like driving my gas combustible car for now, unless something better comes along. Like, I like, I like electricity. I like being able to take a hot shower whenever I want. Like, these are the things these radicals, these elites are trying to take from us. Because guess what? They own the power companies. They are masters of their own universe, and they believe that by controlling the people, they can essentially get their desired outcome. And then so that's what they're trying to do. And so again, I think it's up to the American people to make sure you stay informed, stay up to date, and listen to things that aren't easy to listen to. You know, something that I do quite often is I read the left's media. I study them. I read about what they're talking about. I read everything. I read everything that they put out. In fact, there was a Vox story I was reading today about, Vox essentially coming out and admitting that Donald Trump probably isn't going to see a conviction before the election. And the reason I do that is I have to be informed on how these people are thinking. What is their mindset? What is their plan? Because for me, I like to be ready. I don't like surprises, and I also like to strategize good countermeasures against this stuff. More notably, the radical left's crazy ideas to essentially change this country, to destroy the Constitution, while claiming it's the other side that's the threat to the Constitution. So they wrap themselves up in the Constitution, or they wrap themselves up in the rule of law, and then they're like, oh, look at these people. They're threats to the Constitution and the rule of law, as they're actually just tearing it up and wiping their ass with it. So I think this Rasmussen poll that came out, it's not a surprise to me. I think it's something that we all have been talking about. Deep down inside, we kind of knew that there was the rich elite ruling class that were essentially trying to control all of us. And it's happening so rapidly now. And this is why I say this is the most important election of your lifetime. Is it going to fix everything? No. I think electing Donald Trump is going to stop block them. I think it's going to be a speed bump for them, but I think it's going to buy us some time to kind of put up some pretty good offensive countermeasures for them. I don't know what those countermeasures would be. I think one of those things that would be just a straight punch in the face to the rich ruling class would be separation of church and state. I think putting religion and putting God back into the schools will slowly start to change the morality, this crisis of morals in our younger generations. I think by just simply putting the 10 Commandments in the classroom would do so much to better our future generations, so that they are strong enough and have the will to combat these bad ideas, to combat these rich elites trying to control everything. Because the only way they're going to be able to control people is by destroying their liberties and freedom. I mean, the definition of liberty and freedom is free will. And so if you don't have free will to eat what you want or drive what you want or say what you want, then you're not free. And so these people literally want to control you. They want to take away your liberties and freedoms. And I feel like the more we can get the younger generation to understand free will, where does free will come from? Your God-given rights. Show the generation and teach them and build them up, make them strong, and rebuild their moral integrity so that they can combat these rich ruling class elites by not allowing someone to come in and say, okay, you could take religion out of schools, or saying, okay, you can kneel for the pledge, or saying, okay, you can open up the southern borders. We need a generation of strong-willed people. People that are strong, are people that have a solid foundation of morals. And the only way to do that is by introducing God and religion back into the schools. I'm sorry, that's one of the biggest things I think we can do to really combat this offensive attack on everything we hold dear, like our freedoms and liberties in this country, and our Constitution, our way of life. I love this country. I like the ideas of this country. I like everything it was built for. It is very unique. And, the United States is one of a kind. It's never been a society like this before. There's never been a country like the United States ever. And it is such a magnificent system, and it's created so much happiness and so much opportunity for everybody. It's so much freedom and liberty. I do think it's one of the best systems to ever exist in mankind. Is it perfect? No, but I think it's the best system that's been known to date. And so I think it's vital for our future to protect that. And the only way to do it is by giving them a strong foundation of moral clarity. And the only way to do that is by introducing God and religion into the schools. So listen, these people, this Rasmussen poll shows it, it proves it. They're coming after us. They're coming after our country. I'm not trying to, fearmonger people. I think all of us kind of knew this was the case. Like, everybody knew there was this rich ruling class out there, whatever we called them, the Illuminati, the Freemasons, the whatever it is. We always knew that there was this rich ruling class out there, these groups of rich elites that were always in the background, but we didn't quite know what they were up to. We knew they were up to something, we just didn't quite know. And I think now everything's starting to culminate, everything's starting to come to fruition. It's starting to culminate into, their plan is essentially coming to fruition. We're starting to see what their plan is. And it's starting to be, they're starting to lay it out right in front of us in the hopes that they would have enough support from a vast portion of the population to accept it and so that they can implement it. And unfortunately, we do have a vast population that do support it. They have no problem, the rich ruling class elites, taking over just so long as they get their free paychecks and their free bugs to eat for dinner. Like they always seem like happiness is when everything is free, or happiness is when you don't have to pay for health care, or when, you know what I mean? Like, so those are the people that are perfectly okay with the rich ruling class elite coming in and controlling everything. These were the same people that not only did they accept the mask mandates, but they forced it onto others as well. They said, you know what, this is what we have to do. If we got to wear a mask to stay safe, we'll do it. And it just went on and on. If we got to, stay at home and work from home, we'll do it. If we got to stay away from church for a couple weeks, we'll do it. Like, everything they did, they were so quick to surrender their freedom in exchange for security. We have a very scared population of people. They're very influenced by fear, a very fearful population. How you would countermeasure for a fearful population, how you would countermeasure for a population that's scared of everything and weak, I don't know. I really don't. But I do know that God and religion would be a huge punch in the face to these rich ruling class elites if we started to bring back religion, God, and all the good that God brings back into the schools. Like, that to me is something that they would, I think their heads would explode. I mean, it would certainly set them back a generation or two, and then they would be at it again. Like I said, I think it's this cycle. But unfortunately, these rich ruling class elites have created a very bad situation for us. And that situation is war. I think there is a world war on the horizon. I think we're on our way. And there's no doubt that, there's wars going on now. You can almost say we're in World War right now. We have multiple different conflicts happening all over the world, and not just the ones the United States are involved in, but you have like 20 other conflicts happening between, local states and countries that, the corporate media doesn't talk about. But we have boots on the ground in these, obviously in the Middle East, now that with 3 soldiers dead, so we are losing soldiers. We do have boots on the ground on foreign soil, and we have soldiers dying on foreign soil. So we are well on our way to World War III. Is it inevitable? I don't think so. It doesn't have to be this way. Is it something that Donald Trump's just going to be able to come in and just sweep under a rug? No. I almost think like the rich ruling class are setting Donald Trump up for failure. And I think they're setting Donald Trump up for failure just the same way that they're setting the capitalism up for failure. They want Donald Trump to fail so that they can come out and say, see, we told you this guy couldn't do it. We told you this guy was a loser. We told you this guy was dangerous and a dictator and all that stuff. So I think that is their strategy. I think in a way, they know they're not going to be able to overcome the masses of people going to go out and vote for Donald Trump. And so what I think they're trying to do is they're essentially trying to they're setting Donald Trump up for failure. And sorry about that, my dog's in the background. They're setting Donald Trump up for failure so that they can come out and say, see, I told you it wouldn't work. The same as they're doing with the system now. So I think that's going to be like their strategy. I don't think they're going. I think they realize, okay, Donald Trump's going to be president, so how can we stop block him? And one of those stop blocks is war. I think they're going to do what they always do, and they're going to create mass chaos so that they control the situation. And they're creating chaos internationally with these conflicts. These conflicts were not, I don't think these conflicts were organic. You can't sit there and tell me that the Ukraine and Russia war is what they tell us it is. It's not. They are not telling the truth. The corporate media is not telling you the truth. Russia's not telling you the truth. Ukraine's certainly not telling you the truth. The one thing that I think people are in constant search for is just the truth, because I think the American people can handle the truth. I've always thought that. And the biggest problems we have right now is we have a system that relies on the American people not knowing the full picture, not seeing the full picture, not knowing the truth. And so the rich ruling class elites know this. They want to keep people in the dark so that they can continue their strategy, their chess game, creating conflicts, creating chaos, creating an untenable situation for Donald Trump so that when he gets in the office, he fails, and then boom. I'm not saying that I wish failure on Donald Trump. I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's not going to be easy getting this country on the right track. It's not going to be as easy as just getting Donald Trump in, boom, we're done. Like, this is going to be a multi-decade effort into correcting the course of this country. I almost look at it as a ricochet. Like, we don't exactly know what direction we want to go in, but we know right now this is not the right direction. And so instead of trying to figure out the perfect direction, what we need to do is just kind of ricochet off of this course and back onto a different direction, go back the other way. So I think that's what Donald Trump's going to be perfect for, going in there, dismantling the foundations of this rot, pulling out all the rot, scraping it out, and getting rid of that rot, and then replacing it with God-fearing American patriots that just want to give their children a better country than they were given. That is it. And once you get that and you replace the corruption with regular Americans, you put in term limits, 10 years, done, you're gone. And then that's a system you can create that would really combat these rich ruling class elites from taking over this country and just dissolving it into nothing. 150, 200 years from now, you'll wake up and we won't even be the United States anymore. Who knows what it's going to be? I think the United States is so good, and it is, like I said, the best form of government, the best system ever created by mankind, but not without its downfalls. And one of those downfalls is it's so easy for the rich ruling class or any class to manipulate the system through capitalism. Capitalism has its downfalls too. So these people, without a doubt, are authoritarians. They want full control of people because they feel like if we would just give them our freedoms and liberties, that they would be able to create this perfect utopia for everyone, and they would be on top of the hill. That is essentially what it is, and they would be in control of it. So they want to create a new system that they're in control of. Globalism. This system that is ran by the globalists. This is why you're watching our borders dissolve. This is not, Joe Biden is just a tool. He is a puppet. He is being controlled by these rich ruling class elites. He's paid millions of dollars by, foreign countries. This is the problem. They use Joe Biden as a scapegoat. The old mumbling, bumbling fool out there on the stage, while they're in the background formulating a plot and using him for his platform, for his power. This is the problem with somebody like Joe Biden. He is so susceptible because of his idiocy and his complete lack of morals and his willingness to sell his freaking soul for a few bucks. This is the problem with someone like Joe Biden. And so this is why they're dissolving the border. The globalism doesn't require borders. They don't like borders. They want everything, the free flow of people all throughout the globe. No borders, no countries, just free migration. Everybody's going everywhere. Sounds like a great system, don't it? But the problem is that is a very secular way of looking at things. Everyone is supposed to have foundational principles, roots, somewhere they come from, established principles. And globalism, there is no such thing. It is just a free flow of people, no borders, no countries. And the problem with this system is it's these people that are in control of it. You have some of the most corrupt, most immoral and amoral people that you've ever met in your entire life are going to be the leaders and the controllers of this system. And I don't know about you, but I don't need to be controlled by anybody. I have my own destiny that's set forth by God. And my fate is in the hands of one person and one person only, and that is Almighty God. I don't want the fate of my life being in the hands of some globalist billionaire in Davos, Switzerland, running the world like their own personal monopoly game. I just don't want it. I think it's an awful system. I think the system we have right now is the best system ever, and there's no need to have any other system. You just improve on this system that we have, and we are. The problem is that these progressives, they don't see it progressing fast enough, and so they want these instant changes because, again, they're secularists. They don't believe in God. So they want to see all these changes instantly in their lifetime. Because their life has no meaning, they're in this constant search for a purpose, for a meaning, and that meaning is climate change, or masks, or a vaccine. This is why these people always worship something, whether it's government. Government's another one of them. So this is the problem. This is what we're going through, and this Rasmussen poll just proves my point that I've been saying all along. It is the globalist elites that are trying to ruin this country. They're trying to dismantle it so that they can rebuild it in their own image, and they themselves would be the leaders of. They don't want borders. And so this is why you're watching our borders dissolve right in front of our eyes. And it's quite shocking to me that the borders have become the issue and not this freaking economy. The economy is awful. I don't think, I was afraid of this happening. People would acclimate to this economy. Ladies and gentlemen, the economy is awful. All right? I hate the fact that people had to get used to a crappy economy, and then now all of a sudden the border is the biggest issue. No, the border is bad. It's going to continue to be bad, and I don't think making the border the number one election issue is a winning issue. I don't know. Maybe it is. I just hate the fact that I feel like it's almost an algorithm. Almost like the people are being forced to make the southern border the biggest issue when the American people have been outraged about the southern border for years now. Really, it should be both. I mean, in these polls, in these exit polls, a lot of voters are saying that the southern border is the number one issue in New Hampshire, in Iowa, and these people aren't even close to the southern border, so it's a pretty big issue. But I think the economy should be number two. I think these two things are probably Joe Biden's biggest mistakes, and you could put it in this order: the southern border, because Joe Biden directly destroyed the southern border. It was self-inflicted from day one. This administration, over 60 times, has manipulated the bureaucracy to open our southern borders. And it's been happening since day one. Joe Biden has ruined the economy with his executive orders since day one, getting back into the Paris Climate Accord, the student loan relief, spending all this money, the Green New Deal crap. Like, so that needs to definitely be number two. The spending has put this country in such a unsustainable situation. The southern border, then the economy, and then Joe Biden. And never forget this. This needs to be the number one, number two goal. The American people need to be reminded who implemented vaccine mandates, who was kicking soldiers out of the military for not taking a shot, who was mandating masks, who was closing down cities and states, who, this is most of all, who was firing people for not taking a shot. These are some of the biggest things. Like, people need to be reminded that it was Joe Biden, it was this administration that forced people to make a choice of keeping their job, their livelihood, or taking a shot into their arm. I think Joe Biden and this administration should never be able to get away with that, ever. I said this from the very first year. It was disgusting, egregious, authoritarian. It was all the worst stuff that you could possibly think of, and it happened almost instantaneously from the time he stepped foot in that Oval Office. He made people die alone. Okay, folks, we should never, ever let this administration get away with this. This should be the number one issue, the number two issue. It should be right up there with the southern border. This administration mandated masks when he lied and said he wouldn't. He mandated vaccines when he lied and said he wouldn't by threat of people's livelihoods. This administration over 60 times has manipulated the bureaucracy to open our southern borders, manipulated the bureaucracy to force shots into the arms on people that did not want them. He manipulated the bureaucracy to force mask mandates all across the country, lockdowns, shutdowns. You know how many businesses went out of business? How many families lost their homes? How many small business owners lost their businesses? This is the things that Joe Biden and this administration should never, ever be able to get away with. The most egregious one to me was making people die alone. That to me is the most disgusting thing ever, and it should go down in history as one of the biggest medical blunders ever. And all of it happened on Joe Biden's watch, his cabinet, this administration, and they should not be able to evade responsibility for that. They should not be able to evade accountability for what they did with the mask mandates, the vaccine mandates, the lockdowns, the making people die alone. All that stuff should be on the ballot, and nobody should forget about it. And all those things the Biden administration should be held accountable for. And for some reason, I can't help it, but I feel as if they want people to forget all of it. I think the people need to be reminded like what this country went through under a Biden administration's COVID tyranny that took place in this country on Joe Biden's watch because of Joe Biden and all those executive orders that he signed on his very first day. 64 executive orders he signed. I don't think this administration wants the people to remember that. I think if Joe Biden and this administration is going to pay the political price for anything, I think it needs to be for what they did with COVID. Think about what they did to the kids in school. They forced masks on children, 2-year-olds. I seen some of the most egregious stuff I've ever seen in my life. Parks, city parks and state parks taking down basketball goals off the backboards at the park, when all along the people would have been better off going outside. Instead, they told people to do exactly the wrong thing at exactly the wrong time. Like I said, the biggest medical blunder in human history happened on Joe Biden's watch, and I don't think they should be able to evade accountability for that. So that's my 2 cents. Yes, the southern border's bad, and yes, they should pay the political price for that. But at the same time, the border situation is, I just feel like I just feel like the people are being manipulated on what they should be pissed off about. I don't know. I've been pissed off about the border for 3 years, but I was more pissed. Nothing affected my life more personally than the mandates and the COVID tyranny. That stuff stressed people out. It cost them their livelihoods. People had to die alone. Children lost years of education. Kids forced in masks. School segregation between vaccinated and unvaccinated. Some of the most egregious stuff we've ever seen in this country was during COVID, the pandemic, and Joe Biden acting like a tyrant when it came to COVID. That's what I think the biggest issue should be. And every single American should be reminded of that. I just don't want to feel like we're falling into this election algorithm where the American people should be upset about this because some campaign or some political strategist is pushing it out there on Twitter or Facebook or whatever. I think so many things that this administration, so many bad things that this administration did to the American people. And as for Joe Biden to come out and say that he was going to be this uniting figure, that he was going to unite the country, and that he was going to be a president for all Americans, when he did the exact opposite. All this entire time, this fraud lied to the American people on that debate stage, lied during his job interview about a laptop, the corruption in his family, about how he wasn't going to issue mandates, about how he wasn't going to stop fracking. He wasn't going to get on board with the Green New Deal stuff. So he lied and acted like a moderate. He lied and acted like he was going to be the president for all people, and then came out and did the exact opposite. He lied to the American people to become president, and I think it should be those exact reasons why he loses the presidency. He should lose the presidency for all the lies that he told the American people. And that's why I think the COVID tyranny and the egregious behavior from this administration and our government institutions during the pandemic should be the exact reason why Joe Biden loses the presidency. And I don't think history should ever forget what Joe Biden did during the pandemic. So that's my 2 cents. That's just my opinion. That's what's great about having a podcast. Yes, I think people should be upset about the border, and I am pissed off about the border. But I think there's so many other things that Joe Biden needs to pay the political price for. And I guess people think it's the border. They have every right. I mean, you got terrorists coming into this country, known terrorists being let into this country. People are being escorted into this country like a welcome service. Like the Border Patrol is not a patrol, is not there to arrest illegal immigrants, but instead a welcoming wagon to essentially bring them into the country, give them a plane ticket and a gift card, and put them up in a hotel and tell them they can go wherever they want to go. Like, I think that so many things, so many awful, bad things that this administration has done to purposely destroy this country, as if he's being directly manipulated and controlled by the globalist elites. And it pisses me off, and it should piss everybody off. And I'm sorry, but the whole Taylor Swift thing, this drama, I wanted to actually talk about this earlier. The Taylor Swift, I think the conservatives need to ease up a little bit on Taylor Swift. Do not give this girl the motive. Do not give her the motive to come after conservatives and MAGA. As of right now, Taylor Swift has not endorsed anybody, but I'm telling you right now, by conservatives piling on Taylor Swift, calling her a whore, calling her, just going, this straight up attacks on Taylor Swift on Twitter and social media. I get it. I don't like her music. I don't like her. I think her music sucks. But I'm not a chick. But one thing that would hurt the conservatives the most, and I can really see this being an issue post-election, saying like this is probably the worst thing we could have done, was go after Taylor Swift and mobilize her so that she mobilizes her base to go out of their way to vote for Joe Biden. As of right now, Taylor Swift, I think she does actually care about her fans. I don't listen to her music. I don't even look into her. This is like this cultural phenomenon that's been happening the last couple weeks in the headlines and trending on Twitter. So I really don't think she's going to endorse Joe Biden. I really don't, because I can't see how Taylor Swift, somebody that has such a big impact and influence on society, someone that does care about her fans, she would have to answer for that, because that is literally telling people to vote for your own destruction. And I think she had 4 years to look at it. She's had 4 years to experience it. She's had 4 years to look around and be like, yeah, this is a freaking disaster. Taylor Swift can't name one good thing Joe Biden has done for any of her fans. So I really don't see her telling her fans to vote for Joe Biden. I don't know who she's going to endorse. We know she's not going to endorse Donald Trump. Maybe she won't endorse anybody. I don't know. But I think conservatives and Republicans piling on her, and I think all that's going to do is it's going to mobilize her to go out of her way to tell her fans to vote against MAGA. All right. So I think it's just better for conservatives. This is just my advice to conservatives, calling all conservatives to just ease up on Taylor Swift. Are you allowed to criticize her? Of course. This is America. Everybody has free speech. But I'm just saying, if you're doing it as an election strategy, I think it's a very dumb strategy. I don't think it's a good strategy at all. It makes conservatives look desperate. It makes them look paranoid about one girl. And I wanted to talk about this more in the next segment. I want to actually go into the numbers and the data. Celebrity endorsements don't have very, very little impact on elections to begin with. So all this pile-on effect on Taylor Swift and all the egregious pictures and comments and all this crazy stuff is not going to do anything but mobilize her more to go after MAGA and against Donald Trump. So I don't think it's a good idea. But to each his own. You guys do what you want. That's just some friendly advice from somebody on the outside looking in. And listen, if we're going to win this election, we need to have some strategy and we need to have some self-discipline. So to my conservative listeners out there, to anybody out there that may be part of this pile-on effort of Taylor Swift, just ease up a little bit, because all it's going to do is hurt us in the end. I promise you. I could totally see this backfiring on Trump supporters. I could totally see this backfiring on conservatives. Criticize her, by all means. Do whatever you want. It's a free country. But just don't make it out to be so desperate, and don't make it out to be so vicious. You know, there's this trend that's happening where conservative men are being real vicious on OnlyFans, almost like they're trying to get some type of vengeance on these girls. Like maybe it's like something happened to them in the past. They were rejected. Who knows? Maybe it's bots, for all we know. All I see is I do see a trend on Twitter, on social media, this pile-on effect, this full 100% pile-on Taylor Swift, and I don't think it's going to benefit anybody. And in fact, I think it's actually going to do the opposite, and it's going to have a very negative impact on the election. Because the last thing you want is Taylor Swift going out there to purposely mobilize her fans to vote against MAGA for how vicious MAGA has been towards Taylor Swift. So just some advice. That's just my 2 cents. But hey, to each his own. It's a free country. So anyways, that's it. We're going to get a little bit more into that in the next segment. I just wanted to bring it up the last couple minutes of the show here. So, yeah. So if you guys want to get a hold of me, StephenTorrielloShow@gmail.com. If you could, I'd really appreciate it. Follow me on Rumble. Follow the show on YouTube if you want. I don't really like promoting YouTube. I've been getting a lot of comments from subscribers, from followers, saying that it's hard for them to find my content out there. I've had several followers tell me that they're having trouble sharing the content, so I don't know. I told them I'm probably going to have to hire somebody to promote the show, like a content marketer or something, because I just ain't got the time. I try and post as much content on social media, on TikTok. I try and promote the show as much as I can. I just really don't have the time. I work just like you guys. I'm not a full-time content creator. Trust me, I wish I was. And if this was my job, man, would we have so much more content, in-depth content. Like, the show would be 1,000 times better if I had 8 hours a day to put together a daily show. But I don't. I work just like you. I come home. I research this stuff all day, every day. I'm constantly listening to the news, constantly submerged in news, culture, politics. So when I do shows, it's really just an hour of show prep, and that's about it. So I get on here. If I had 8 hours a day, if I had all day to put together a show, man, this show would be off the chain. We'd be having 3 or 4 episodes a day. It would be engaging content, in-depth content with polls and data. I don't really have time to promote, to market the show, to all these things. There's a lot to going in. So when you see podcasters like John Solomon, when Tom Fenton, when you see all these different podcasters out there, Steve Bannon, Tim Pool, Dan Bongino, they have whole teams of producers and marketers and promoters and content producers. They have entire teams that work for them and do all this stuff, all kinds of stuff that they do. It's just me and this microphone and a laptop. That's it. Just me and this microphone. So I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. And I am having people get a hold of me and tell me they're having problems finding my content, which would explain why the low average of followers. TikTok, I have, thousands of followers, but, TikTok is, it's to the younger generation, which I did want to focus the show on the younger generation. I wanted to get information to the younger voters, but I also want to get my show out there to everybody. And so if you want to get a hold of me and you know somebody that does content marketing or content promoting, send me an email, StephenTorrielloShow@gmail.com. Also, follow the show. Appreciate it. Share the show with your friends and family. That's how we're going to have to do it. We're just going to have to do it the old-fashioned way, folks. Just share the show with your friends and family. That would help me out the most. I don't ask for subscriptions or anything like that. All I ask is that if you're listening to the show right now, if you could please hit the share button, hit the like button, hit the thumbs up button, whatever you're listening to, it would help me out. Just give some type of feedback. That always helps get the show out there and kind of puts it in the algorithm. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, as always, I hope you guys have a great Friday. TGIF. I hope you guys have an amazing weekend and make sure you get some rest on Sunday. And I will talk to you guys here in a little bit on the next segment. So as always, God bless you and God bless America. You guys have a good day. Bye-bye.